But anyway, dispatching of that very inconsistent plant and a wall skulltula, on the wall to our left we can jump onto this vine, hit a switch there and drain the well, giving us access to a vital key. Unless you're me, in which case you have 11 at this point. So now we will leave the well, play with this weird missing block a little bit. We're going to go back to the main room of the forest temple and head through the locked door. So we're kind of out of enemies for a while, but this does go back to the whole idea of being able to complete the temple as a child. We actually cannot grab the top of the blocks in this room. Ergo, we need to use some glitches. First off, I tried the ground hop glitch. Didn't work. If you don't know what that is, I would definitely recommend looking it up. It's a really interesting little glitch that kind of helps you get through a couple different areas. Eventually, I decided to just use bomb hovering to get to the top of this, but it is possible to clear this room as a child, providing you have the bombs to do it. Now, this was about the point when I just decided to give myself infinite bombs because the challenge isn't to get through with limited bombs, the challenge is to get through at all. The second block we are allowed to use a ground jump, so I got to use that new tech that I just learned. Pretty happy about it. But anyway, we get up top here, climb a ladder, and we are absolutely assaulted by two blue bubbles, minding their own business, mind you. They were doing their own thing, but they assaulted us, so we need to clear them out. Entering the door, we are met with the twisted hallway, an iconic scene in the forest temple, and one of my favorite rooms, to be honest. Now, Navi warns us about the shadows that hang from the ceiling. A scary prospect, nonetheless. We find shadows starting to grow beneath our feet. It's the Wallmaster himself, ready to grab down and grab us, and, only slightly jostle us on the way to the entrance of the level. He doesn't really do much damage, but he does escort us to the beginning of the level, which is a pain in the butt, for being totally honest. A quick roll out of the way, 4 slashes total with the Kokiri sword will take care of him, meaning 2 hearts. Oh, also, they always tend to give a lot of money, which is pretty nice. Kind of a little lore piece. Maybe it's like the money of the people that they stole from, huh? Maybe they just pick your pockets, but they just don't with Link. I don't know why they would have so much money, but they do. It's just a fact. Like, that's just how it is. They're rich! After we defeat the upper tax bracket of the Monster Kingdom, we find ourselves needing that second key we got at the bottom of the well. That's using your brain. And we find ourselves in a room with some portraits. Now, these portraits look very familiar in that this one seems to be one of the ghosts that stole the fire. How they got the fire into the portrait, don't ask me. It's a theory for another day. But yes, there's fire in that portrait. Real live fire. And this is where things kind of start to derail a little bit. As you can see here, we can't release the ghost from the painting with the slingshot. Now, I might be able to load in as a child with the bow, which ironically enough still has the animation of the slingshot, so it's kind of interesting in that regard, but that has to do with the emulator. That's not a glitch that you could do on the 64. That is an emulating hack. So, doesn't really follow the sport of our challenge here. So, unfortunately, at this point, it looks as if we can't defeat the Forest Temple without being an adult, which is kind of a bummer, but the testing must go on. So we ignore the painting for a little bit and find a room with a Stalfos and a big giant hole in the middle of the room because reasons. It'll be clear later, don't worry about that. But after we defeat this Stalfos, we are assaulted by 2 more skeletons. Spooky! Which actually ended up being a pretty challenging fight for Child Link, but not impossible as long as you're smart with how you divide up your damage, and we obtain the bow, which we can't use. I don't know why we can't use it. The game said no, I guess was the reason. So it was at this point I knew I had a problem. I needed to fight at least one ghost, but I didn't have a bow and arrow to do so. So my option to this, instead of just going and fighting the green Poe, which definitely would have been the smarter thing to do, but didn't think about it at the time. Oof. So I queued up a brand new save file, I came back as an adult, went directly to this part, didn't do anything else, and apparently I missed some activators. So the Stalfos just didn't spawn in this room. They had other things to do, so I don't get the bow on this file. That's fine, but the problem is that you can't leave this room, so I can't progress. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've been working on this for a while, so, yeah. Let's go ahead and fight Redhead over here and see how much health she has. Since we're an adult and in the interest of time, I didn't bother smuggling the boomerang over to Adult Link, but with 5 hits of the Master Sword, which if you watched the video before, we know does 1 heart of damage, so 5 total hearts worth of damage. So far, it's kind of interesting. It does seem that every enemy has either a quarter of a heart, like they're a 1-hit KO to everything, or they have different incremental heart values. Like there's no enemy that took 3 hits to eliminate. It's either 2 hits, 4 hits, 6 hits, 10 hits in some cases with the Kokiri sword, meaning that they have 1, 2, 3, or 5 hearts. So just kind of an interesting little insight to kind of how they may have coded enemy health. So I'm going to be honest with you at this point, since I soft locked the game, I just looked it up, and all of the phantoms seem to have the same amount of health. So that's good enough for me. We're just going to go ahead and put all of them here at 5 hearts. So since we soft locked and this whole story walkthrough kind of motif I've been going for kind of got derailed anyway, let's just go straight to the last enemy that we have here because it's a lot of repeats from here. Let's just cut to the chase, okay? There is a Floormaster in the Forest Temple. Now the Floormaster is a kind of a unique enemy in that when it is defeated, it splits off into 3 children, I guess? Gross, but accurate. Now Big Mama Floormaster, just like the Wallmaster, has 2 hearts. That's 2 hits with the Master Sword, would be 4 with the Kokiri Sword were we still using it, and the little baby Wallmasters that grab you and suck you of your sustenance. I don't like them, they're icky, they're gross, but they only have 1 heart. So that just leaves Phantom Ganon. Now Phantom Ganon has some interesting interactions with Child Link. I decided to switch back to Child Link, and I just warped into Ganon's room. I'm gonna be honest with you, I really wanted to fight him as a child, and as it turns out, it is completely possible to do so. So kind of an interesting little tidbit here. It doesn't matter if you hit him with the bow. You don't have to hit him with the bow. Specifically, the slingshot works just fine during his horse phase. All right, so let's pick up this story motif I got going on again. We're going to Phantom Ganon. Let's do this. As we find ourselves at the door of the boss room, we walk up the flight of stairs and take a sharp left into an open corridor. It's not a corridor. It's just a circle. Paintings line the wall. As we enter the room, we find nothing. Nothing happens. What a waste of time, we all exclaim, and begin to leave the room. When suddenly, 3 to 5 spears, because I'm not actually looking at the clip right now, shoot up from the floor. Luckily, they didn't skewer us. So we turn around, we find Phantom Ganon on a horse. Sometimes stories have low points, and sometimes they're met right in the middle of high points. Anyway, first phase, as we all know, is pretty basic. He comes out of one of the different paintings. Phase 2 is where things actually get interesting, where we actually start damaging Phantom Ganon. In phase 2, he's supposed to block every projectile. However, he doesn't block the boomerang. Again, further proof that the boomerang is the most overpowered weapon in all of Ocarina of Time, and it's wasted on a child. Also a fish ate it at one point. These are facts. Editor Newbornkilik here, and I just wanted to let you all know that there are some very interesting interactions with the boomerang and Ganondorf. It does damage him, but it cannot eliminate him. It's a very strange kind of thing they have going on there, but bear in mind the boomerang does do damage to Phantom Ganon, so we can't use it for our testing. It's at this point that I decided to enlist the help of some other videos, get a larger sample size, and of all of the videos that I watched, I found that Ganondorf actually has 12 hearts, which I did confirm with the Big Oron sword. I was also able to basically rule out the idea that he damages himself with his orbs, or if he does damage himself, it's a very small amount and doesn't really matter. But as it turns out, you can one-cycle Phantom Ganon, knock him down, and get 3 perfectly timed jump slashes in before he gets up, and he will be eliminated, assuming you are using the Big Oron sword. This was also confirmed by some of the other videos that I watched, whereas they would down him 3 or 4 times, or sometimes, 2 times, and it would still take a total of 12 hearts of damage, as referenced in the previous video. Because as we know, the Big Oron sword does 4 hearts of damage. If it does 4, we need to hit him 3 times with a jump slash for a total of 12 damage. And with that, Phantom Ganon is banished by his own creator. Wow, pretty dang rude. Anyway, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I do hope you found this at least mildly interesting. It was pretty fun, kind of going through this temple as a child. I think I might actually go through all the temples as a kid and just see if it's possible with a lot of them. Most of them I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be, especially with bomb hovering and ground jumping. There's really nothing that would kind of denote that we wouldn't be able to do that unless something specifically needs an item from being an adult. Like the Fire Temple, probably not gonna happen, but there are potentially ways around that. Real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons: George Kazan III, Mark Comer, Emai, Milanus, Jennifer Campney, Ryan Ellison, Cap, Ash, Axelmania, and Jan Hold. Sorry if I butchered those last two names, but thank you so much for your support. I really, really do appreciate it. Anyway, if you'd like to join them in supporting me, you're welcome to head on over to the Patreon page. Link will be below. And hey, I appreciate you. Anyway, I'm Newbornkilik, and I will see you in the next one. I'm out.